I'd like to take this unscripted auditory space to clear up some confusion regarding who I am, what PRAGMAGICK is, and what exactly is We the Hallowed. My name is Keats Ross, and I'd like to introduce a little bit about myself. I'm a writer, a musician, witch and weirdo that is finding his voice as a listener and host of this very podcast. As a Portland, Oregon-based journalist, I've written for the likes of disinfo.com and esotericana.com. I've released over 10 albums of original music under the pseudonym of Dakota Slim. I'm obviously the host of this here PRAGMAGICK podcast, and I think maybe most importantly, I'm the creator and revelator of the Portland, Oregon art collective We the Hallowed, of which I'd like to largely discuss on this here solo, unscripted episode of PRAGMAGICK. So moving forward from here on out, no matter what I've said, no matter what I've told you, my name is Keats Ross. When it comes to We the Hallowed, the Portland, Oregon art collective, or quote-unquote art religion, what we woo isn't secret. And by that, I mean the large unifying connective tissue between all the disparate artists and all the antithetically aesthetic art and artistry from the individual members of the art collective is that we are unified under a set of philosophical tenets or metaphysical musings called the tethers. On wethehallowed.org, our arts, culture, and occult blog, member Eric Miller is creating a custom divinatory tarot-esque card system. And the 18th one posted this last Friday. The word was haunt. If there was one word I consider to be the most powerful, the most enigmatic, and important to describe We the Hallowed, our Portland, Oregon-based art collective, it would most certainly be the word haunt. Mainly because the members of this art collective are referred to as haunts, or haunters, if you're into that whole brevity thing, as we all encapsulate the biggest tether or philosophical tenet of We the Hallowed. And it's the one major idea that unifies all of us incredibly individualistic weirdos into a collective of artist seekers. And that is that no one knows what happens when we die. Nobody has the faintest fucking clue. We can philosophize, we can metaphysicize, we can pontificate, we can ponder, we can muse, but no one knows what happens after we're dead. Therefore, the only way for certain to achieve what could be considered immortality is to haunt on after we're gone to the creation of art and ideas while we were alive. Therefore, haunt of the disruption generator, which you can find at wethehallowed.org, along with Elizabeth Kennemer and other fellow haunts of We the Hallowed, had expressed to me that I need to properly introduce the art collective We the Hallowed, what we've done, what we plan to do, and where I fit into all of this, as to what or who or what woo we do here exactly. And this is understandable as We the Hallowed self-ordained revelator. I'm unable to reveal the psychic machinations that are now afoot. As We the Hallowed becomes its own egregore, its own living thought form with its own laws and mechanics. I can only illustrate or illuminate a nearsighted trajectory using our past projects, our present projects, as a means to kind of soothsay what maybe the future looks like for PRAGMAGICK and for We the Hallowed. Recently, and I think most successfully, we've been in a productive frenzy constructing and reconfiguring wethehallowed.org, which was not a planned trajectory. We had no initial plan to turn wethehallowed.org into an online occult arts and culture resource akin to that of, say, disinfo.com, because the fall of disinfo.com actually ushered a need or a want to find a consistent weird and woo-based journalistic output, not only for me, but for other writers and artists. And so we naturally decided to turn what was an otherwise humble hub of the collective's many projects and the collective members' disparate individual works is now a pragmatic, consistent, and content-based resource. So naturally, I became the de facto kind of design editor, orchestrating and curating the multitude of articles, stories, art, and music from current We the Hallowed haunts or members, as well as helping to midwife fantastically original occult-based media projects, such as the aforementioned custom tarot of Eric Miller's Disruption Generator, and this very podcast, PRAGMAGICK. That said, if you are an artist who likes to merge the metaphysical weird with your artistic process and would like to submit articles, stories, art, or music relating to that confluence, please submit your work to wethehallowed@gmail.com with the subject line Young Haunt. We hope to consider you for either a one-time or consistent contribution to the blog. I like to imagine that wethehallowed.org is also a sort of podcast network. Right now, we not only host PRAGMAGICK, but two other very popular, far more learned and manifested podcasts on the occult based in Portland, the Alex Cast and My Alchemical Bromance. Their hosts, Alex Ballin and Reverend Eric, respectively, have become members of We the Hallowed in a sense where they're submitting not only their podcasts and their own short stories, writings, but, articles and updated, fun contributions to the website. And they've been a wonderful resource, not only for me and helping me navigate this whole podcast venture, but also they are learned motherfuckers who know their shit. And I'm excited to have their stories, their articles, their journalism, as well as their podcasts be a part of We the Hallowed and wethehallowed.org. And I see We the Hallowed's growth from being an intimate metaphysical arts community into a more philanthropic organization. And this is largely evidenced by our past and our upcoming salons, where we showcase metaphysical methods to the public, as well as performance art and music in a participatory, interactive atmosphere. The next one, and the beginning of our new salon series, will feature Elizabeth Kennemer, the guest of PRAGMAGICK number 13. She's an oracle, but she's also going to give us an introductory meditation method she uses in her own occult therapy. So it's really exciting. It's going to be filmed as a live PRAGMAGICK episode, much akin to the early PRAGMAGICK episodes from our last residency at the Waypost. However, this one's going to be more intimate. It's going to launch what I hope is the video channel, or the video current, which I foresee PRAGMAGICK kind of growing into. And it kind of encapsulates all I want We the Hallowed to cultivate. It gives a platform and distributes wonderful artists across various mediums. It showcases methods, methodology, theories, and practices to embetter the artistic life or the artistic process. It comes together under a unifying principle. If you'd like to know more information, you can figure out how to do that. We'll be less clandestine about it once we work out the kinks as far as what, the filming and the event itself kind of generates after we have the first couple. The goal is to craft the future salons with the participation with local charities as well. We want to pragmatically attempt to improve the somatic reality outside, let alone the ethereal one. So as of now, the salons provide philosophical, therapeutic, and spiritual ideas and exercises. In the future, it will do that while generating maybe some contribution to local charities or other movements that need a bit of assistance. I also want to just make mention, what we woo isn't secret, as I've said, not clandestine about our weird unifying folklore, our methodology, or mythology, but we are a pragmatic art collective, first and foremost. We have been. And this is evidenced by being a small publishing house or a digital record label, a multimedia marketing resource for our collective, as well as distributing individual works from the disparate artists that are part of We the Hallowed. Last year, we designed print editions of our first Liber Iosotros, which was a zine, but really more of a literary journal. And it was comprised of current members' unique designs, illustrations, and just general musings via metaphysical nonfiction, poetry, short stories that were printed in high quality, short run, but is now available and distributed via Amazon. I think Unlimited, for Kindle Unlimited. It's gone on to haunt on digitally, but it started off as a small print run. And I'd like for us to focus as a collective back on the material creations. I'd like to do more printing, to do more releasing of material items. And with that, I'd love to print Eric Miller's Disruption Generator Tarot series, as I had mentioned, and various artists in the works, comics, booklets, zines, collecting articles or visual art that's hosted on wethehallowed.org, maybe into yearly or bi-yearly compendiums. But as far as a record label or a digital music distributor, We the Hallowed has a recording collective of various musician members coming together to experiment, to release their audiomancy, either their weird stuff or straightforward song, original music. We've released and distributed an audio sigil, which is kind of an experimental compilation of We the Hallowed haunts and guests, compiled by Johannes Pontes, and to be curated and compiled by a different member each time, as this is supposedly the first of an ongoing, albeit sporadic, series of curated compilations. And the second sigil should be released this year. It doesn't take long to do it, and I'd like to do maybe more than just one a year. You can find that at our Bandcamp at wethehallowed.bandcamp.com, or it's on the website. We the Hallowed is also a label, and it's a legal entity I use for all of my music and albums. It's released my entire Dakota Slim discography, and as recently as releasing my last Dakota Slim record, Cactus Crown, which has garnered a lot of good attention and awesome press putting We the Hallowed more and more out there as a label. We plan to release experimental material as well as straightforward albums from members such as Rune, who has talked about wanting We the Hallowed to put out or digitally distribute an acoustic record. There's no limit to the woo or what we do here in We the Hallowed, and that's because we've proven time and time again that we are pragmatic just as much as we might be weird. The woo only comes with the scripture. The scripture is a collective folklore. It's the folklore that connects all of our disparate works as individual artists, no matter the artistic medium, combined under philosophical tenets. And these are referred to as the tethers. The tethers is basically a quasi-scripture designed to bend to each member's whim as a means to evolve these philosophical isms, creating a constantly updated, non-dogmatic scripture. So in 2019, we plan on releasing our current iteration of the tethers, printing them and distributing them much in the same way as we did the Libros Otros or the literary journal, and hopefully illustrated with contributions from different members focused on constructing a unifying philosophy or a set of tenets that help illustrate the individualistic need for each member to be a collective entity, for them to either self-destruct, reaffirm, or hold steady, as we kind of distill and discover metaphysical, spiritual, philosophical constants or absolutes that we all share as individual artists and as a collective. The essential elements that make up an artist's somatic reality, called the schemata, or the roles needed to sustain an art collective, called the exceptions, a lexicon of language specific to We the Hallowed folklore. Combine all of this into print and illustrate it, investigating and exploring metaphysical means to enhance the creative process, while also anchoring self-improvement methods and musings for the individual artists and for the collective whole. You know, be an artistic testament to the magical weight that accompanies each of us artists, the metaphysical tethers that bind us all as creators and will outlive the collective itself, the biggest haunt from the haunts. The support via donation or subscription through our Patreon at patreon.com/WeTheHallowed. Supporting that Patreon not only supports my continuing cross-platform creation as a writer, composer, journalist, filmmaker, witch, and weirdo, but also helps maintain the various unglamorous back-end website and social media maintenance needed to market, edit, and distribute these creations and turn WeTheHallowed.org specifically into the magnetic and magical hub that it's so on its way to be. Like I said, my goal for PRAGMAGICK is to evolve into a more video-based system. So with that, I need to transcend some technical limitations before I do that. And I plan on creating video grimoires, a companion to this podcast of interviews, and releasing frequent videos across, multiple video mediums, like whether it be video essays, reviews, talk shows, artistic shorts, whatever. Film, which I have a large background in, has always been the answer. As far as PRAGMAGICK, I had just the most wonderful weekend. I have recorded interviews with Derek Hunter of Love Chaos, had a fun bar cast with Alex of the Alex Cast and Eric of My Alchemical Bromance, have a interview with Gabe Hart about his first published work, largely aided by his last appearance on the PRAGMAGICK podcast, and won me my printed name in the acknowledgments of his book. So that's super exciting. And tomorrow morning, bright and early, I interview none other than Mitch fucking Horowitz, which is a crazy evolution for this podcast and for me as a seeker to kind of pick the brain of someone who is really rewriting the code when it comes to new thought and when it comes to mind metaphysics, of which I was a student of, a practitioner to a degree right now. So PRAGMAGICK is a well-oiled machine. Got to figure out a content schedule to release all these wonderful things. I hope that clears up a bit of the confusion of who I am and what We the Hallowed is. In summation, my name is Keats Ross. The music I make is under Dakota Slim. This is the PRAGMAGICK podcast, and this was made possible by the Portland, Oregon art collective, We the Hallowed. So with that, haunt fucking on.